Hey, welcome to the Northway Leadership Notes, all about trying to grapple with the pressure points of life and leadership when it comes to helping people grow in their love for God, grow in their love for people, and making disciples of Jesus. So we've been in a series on friendship called Friendship on Purpose. And every series we have, there are some strands, some threads that kind of emerge that are worth pulling on in a different kind of conversation. And one of the threads that has sort of begun to emerge in this series as we hear people having conversations and talking is, what does healthy friendship look like? What does healthy friendship look like? And in order to pull on this thread, I've invited my friend Chad with me. Chad Patterson has been a pastor in his previous career, but now ministers as a licensed clinical social worker, and he owns his own practice. And so, Chad, welcome.
Thanks.
And
good to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you. Anything else that'd be helpful to know about you?
So, in addition to my professional role, I'm also husband to my wife, and we've been married for 30 years, and I am father to 5 children, so 4 sons and 1 daughter, and yeah, so living life with everybody else, trying to figure everything else out just like everybody else, and
Yeah, so we're right there with you.
yeah,
We got teenagers around the same place, so it's good. I love that. I just thought it'd be interesting to hear on the front end of this conversation. I mean, that's a shift to move from like pastoral ministry into more of the licensed clinical social work side of things, which I know is very much still a way that you're serving the Lord.
Yep.
But would you just maybe what for you? Just give us a teeny bit of the background of that shift for you and what you're liking about what you're doing.
Yeah, so for me, that was after about 17, 18 years of being in pastoral roles, kind of found myself in the space of, what I really enjoy about this role is meeting with people and working through challenges in life. And it was actually my wife who suggested, hey, you might want to consider going back to school and getting credentialed as a therapist. And so this was all sort of pre-COVID.
Okay.
And kind of followed that route. And a lot of it that was, for me, was kind of taking the part of pastoral ministry that I loved the most and got the most sense of joy and energy from, and said, okay, how do I do that as kind of the thing rather than one of the many things? And so that was a lot of what prompted that shift.
I love that.
As I started to think about what is the last 20 years of my career going to look like. And so that was why we made that change. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been fun to serve the Lord in this new way, and new way, old way. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you're doing that, and I love the wonderful need of having people like you in that space who love God and are helping people in a way that moves them to places where they might be more likely to come to see Him and know Him, and so that's really good.
Yeah,
that's really good. Well, hey, just kind of on that note, as you work with people from a variety of ages and places and spaces in life, how have you seen this topic of friendship impacting people?
Yeah, so friendships are one of those things that massively important, and there's a significant body of research that kind of shows that the quality of our friendships, the longevity of our friendships, are strongly predictive of our overall health and well-being across life. Our quality of our friendships, the longevity of our friendship has a surprising effect on our physical health. I was shocked to find out how big of a difference it actually makes just in physical health.
Like what? Hold on. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So if
explain
we
that.
have really great friendships that last a really long time, it means that we're part of a supportive community. And when our communities are supportive that way, our brain functions better. Our brain is part of our body. And a lot of what our brain is doing is regulating other things in our body. So just things down to things, stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And when we live too long with those things too high, it is a wrecking ball to our cardiovascular system, to our immune system, and even our capacity for our body to identify and fight off cancers. All right, so it's not a direct, oh, if you do this, pull this lever, right? But at a larger level, we can see that no, when folks make a conscious decision to have lifetime friendships and those friendships are healthy, everything else becomes healthier as a result.
Yeah.
So, when I look in New Testament in particular, and the most frequent command is love one another. And so much of Paul's writings are about how do we get on with each other? How do we have good relationships? It's like, that makes a lot of sense. The God who made us is encouraging us to have a healthy life. And so, yeah.
I love that. And I think one of the reasons that's important is we are whole people. And so I can't just take my spiritual life and put it in a box over here, and take my physical life and put it in a box over here, and take my relational life and put it in a box over here, my mental health and put it in a box over here. That's all going to kind of come to impact me as a whole person. And do you feel like when you're in conversations, when you're engaging with people, whether it was in ministry or kind of the chairs you sit in today, do you find that people tend to highly value and see the impact of friendships on their overall health? Like, do people have a sense of that as you work with them?
Generally, no.
Okay.
Generally, people don't connect that dot, and I think that's one of the things that I like kind of seeing the light bulbs come on with a number of my clients. It's just when we kind of walk through some of that, and there is a longing, there is an aching in our society, and I see this time and time again in the treatment room, where there's this deep longing and aching for connection. We know that it's important. And yet the press of our culture and society to achieve certain other things in life just puts all of this pressure to destroy our relationships rather than uphold our relationships. So it's this tension I see walk in the room time and again of, I long for this, I want this, but I don't know how to get that in with all of these other pressures. And how do I reprioritize?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
what if somebody has realized they want, or to maybe to the degree that it's important, to have healthy connection, healthy relationships? Do you find that's it? I've talked you into it, and now you're going to be able to form that? Or do you find that there are other things that keep us from, even if I know I want it, that keep us from the kind of thing that maybe we're wired and designed for?
No. Again, our culture, as of 2026, does not really do friendship relationship well.
Okay.
And it's like that muscle is weak for lack of use in a lot of, so relationships tend to be very functional. So a lot of times it's going back and sort of thinking about and training on, how do, at a very block and tackle level, how do you form healthy connections? How do you recognize that a connection is healthy versus being unhealthy? And what are the things that you need to do to be intentional about that?
Yeah.
Most of us walk around with some level of intuition about that, and some are more aware than others about maybe the way I've always done this isn't quite right because it's not working out for me.
Okay.
And other people are highly aware of that, and then there's a subset of folks that no, they're highly relational. They know how to.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to kind of put a spotlight on two things that you just mentioned. One of them was kind of the world, the space, the place that we live in. Maybe doesn't lend itself to the kind of experiences that would help me. You use the phrase like stretch the muscles, or use the muscles that I need to have good relationships, good friendships. So that's sort of like what's going on out there.
Yeah.
But then it's highly connected to like what's going on in a person. And so how do you help people walk through that reality and that tension of like, yes, my maybe the way I grew up and the values that are around culturally don't help with this, but also there's some things going on in me that might need to shift or change. Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So to kind of put that into a little bit of context, and this is just a 30-second primer on how therapy works, but a lot of times I'll have folks that come in because at an emotional level something is out of control for them, and that might look like my sadness is out of control and now I'm feeling depressed, or my fear is out of control and now I'm feeling very anxious, or maybe I've gone through something that's very traumatic and my whole world just feels chaotic, right? So a lot of the therapeutic process on the front end is identifying that triangle of thoughts, emotions, and behavior, and a lot of times adjusting thinking and seeing, okay, that I've got ideas in my head that aren't really grounded in reality, and when I adjust that, the emotions go down. But then the next big piece is, okay, if I have these new ways of thinking about my world and life, how does that actually work out in my relationships? So that's usually what's opening the door to seeing, what is a person doing that's effective and has a real strength in their relationships? What are they doing that maybe is unintentionally undermining a relationship?
Okay.
So
okay, I'm super interested in that. So what are there any major patterns that you see when you're thinking about that question or trying to help someone grow in their way? Are there any patterns that are undermining relationship? Are there any patterns that are keeping me from healthy friendship, or maybe just making it harder? What are the major patterns that you see?
Yeah, so one way to kind of think about relationships is that all relationships are at some level this tension between connection and being joined with another human being, and being different. Like I have this 30-year relationship with this woman that is my wife, and
She's
so
great.
we are deeply connected, but I am not her and she is not me, right? And so typically where relationships get into less healthy territory and even really damaging territory is when someone's relationship is geared toward overly connecting,
Okay.
or becoming so boundaried and limited that we're really talking about someone who's becoming a loner.
Okay.
Right? So you've got the folks that I'll do anything to stay connected, and maybe that anything includes compromise of my own value system and the things that are important to me, on the one hand, or the person who says, relationships are so painful, I'm just better off keeping everybody far away. And either of the, those are kind of the extremes, but
Yeah.
you get too far in either of those directions and it's going to cause problems.
How would someone know which way they lean? Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'm hearing you say this and I'm kind of wondering, I'm like, okay, do I lean towards overconnection? Compromising something that I should not be maybe compromising, or maybe enabling something I shouldn't be enabling because I must have this connection? Or do I struggle more with maybe being so overly boundaried that I'm not going to have that connection because that connection means pain? How do I know which one? Like, is it like one or the other?
Yeah, so the fulcrum that a lot of that balance is on is this idea of reciprocity. So is my relationship defined by a back and forth and a give and take? Not a quid pro quo, not a tit for tat,
Okay.
but an ongoing kind of fluid sense of I'm contributing to this relationship, and the other person is also contributing to the relationship.
Okay.
And if I am contributing way more than what is kind of coming back, that's an indication that, hey, maybe this relationship is overly indexed for connection.
Okay.
And by contrast, if what I'm seeing is I am taking a lot from the relationship, but or I'm just shutting people out, there's not back and forth because the gate's closed, and the gate's closed and the gate is locked and we've put barbed wire fence on it. Then okay, there's not that back and forth. There's not give and take because there's no avenue for that.
Okay.
That's going to tell me that, okay, we're over indexing on boundaries and being more of a loner.
I know this is probably a really hard question. Maybe it's not. What causes someone to find themselves maybe overly connected? What causes someone to be, overly boundaried, or, a loner, or not make those connections?
And yeah, there's lots of jokes about therapists in looking into childhood, but actually this is one of those places where childhood really is formative.
Okay.
So if where I grew up, there were certain conditions, people will either mirror the environment that they have, or they will react to the environment that they have as a way to initially cope and survive maybe an unhealthy place. And then when that translates into adulthood, it kind of comes out in these distortions.
Okay.
So a lot of times it's not something that we necessarily chose. It was something that was modeled for me, and so that's what I know is normal.
Yeah.
And I don't recognize that that's not maybe effective because
Okay.
that's what was modeled for me. Or I recognize, what my caregivers did was really hurtful and harmful, and so I'm going to run to the other extreme.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to fill this out with like an example, maybe of an experience to help like connect to it. So if someone grew up in a context where maybe their caregivers, the people closest to them, maybe like ignored a lot of harmful things, maybe there was substance abuse in the home, or maybe there was um, just allowing destructive things to happen, but they would never maybe deal with those things because we didn't want to give up. We didn't want to hurt the family, give up connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so if somebody saw something like that or experienced it, they could either mirror that kind of behavior where it's like the relationship supersedes doing, doing good for the person, or they could react against it and go, if I see a destructive pattern of any kind or think or even smell it,
Yeah.
I'm not, we're going to shut the gate. We're
Yeah.
not going to go, we're not going to be friends. We're not going to. So is that the kind of thing that you mean, or maybe there's a better way to unpack it?
Yeah. So to give a little bit more granularity to that hypothetical, we might kind of think about so let's say that there's someone who's abusing substances in the home, and so sort of one reaction is I kind of join that idea of connection at all cost, even if that means I lose myself, and that's a real problem. The other is the person who maybe grows up in that very same household, but says, you know what, my needs never mattered, and so if I ask for what I need, it's never going to be met. So I don't need relationships.
Okay.
Right. And now we're singing, Simon and Garfunkel tunes about I'm a rock, I'm an island. Right.
I have a confession. I've never heard that.
For the older members of our audience, but you're in this space of I'm a rock, I'm an island, because a rock knows no pain, and an island, it never cries. And it's like, how do I stop the pain? Well, I just push everything out.
Got it.
Not aware that creates its own extreme pain, right? Because we're not, man is not meant to live alone.
Yeah.
It's not good for man to be alone.
Yeah. So kind of what's bubbling in my head as we're talking about this is in the context of relationships and friendships especially, kind of like, is there like a set of rules I could follow to like, okay, my friendships are going to be healthy, so I'm going to not be overly connected, or I'm not going to be overly boundaried, and like, their friendships are so messy. So at times I'll be in a relationship, maybe I have unhealthy patterns in my life. My friends have unhealthy patterns in their life. How do you know, is this reciprocal enough? Is it not reciprocal enough? My friend's going through a hard season and they can't give now as much. Maybe they're going through a series of like sickness, or they're going through something hard with their kids, and like they don't have that much to give. And so, this isn't reciprocity. Like, how on earth do you walk through the mess of that?
Well, it is messy. And I think one of the things that I really enjoyed kind of learning about in that process of becoming a social worker was seeing relationships as being kind of their own life, right? So, and life is change. From our first breath to our last, we're in a constant state of change. So then we connect two ever-changing people together. We can't describe that connection as something that's static and unchanging, right? Like that, it doesn't work that way. Again, married for 30 years, I'm not the person that my wife married.
Your wife has been married to 10 different people.
10 different,
and all of them
least.
are you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so part of that dance is we have to recognize that we're both changing, and that what we need is constantly changing and moving. And by the time we think we have some handle on that, it's going to be different. That said, like, there are also some helpful pieces around um, in the world of relationship counseling. One of the things that's really influenced me is this idea of what's sometimes called attachment theory. And at a very practical level, a very clever writer kind of reduced it down to 3 words and said really all connection is grounded in emotion. And there's a physiological reason for that, not a philosophical reason for that. It's about how your brain works. But it's grounded in emotion, and it's about being accessible to another person. It's about being responsive to another person, and it's about being able to engage with what they need in the moment. And when you have 2 people who are able to, more often than not, be accessible when something happens, be emotionally responsive, and then be engaged with the needs that will lower a painful emotion or join a happy emotion or positive emotion. Our brains kind of do this funny dance, and we actually start to synchronize at a neurological level. And few things are as fun or as pleasurable as that, right? So the writer who kind of first articulated it that way describes it very much like having a dance partner. And it's like the music is constantly changing, the steps are constantly changing, and it's about getting in sync with this other individual.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's also about, oh, hey, you just stepped on my toe, don't do that. Right?
Okay.
Right? So
speak to that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so the other side of that is when we're dancing together, there's a lot of reciprocity, and that's great. But there may also be places where, let's assume the best. It's an unintentional thing, but my dance partner hurts me. I can either just ignore that, or I can say, wait, just don't do that again. Well, I just set a limit. I just set a boundary. I said that may have felt great for you, but that my toe is now aching.
Yes.
So setting those boundaries provides feedback to one another, and we can kind of continue to engage in the dance. Yeah. So does that?
It does. And well, what I'm thinking about is over some pastoral ministry, what I've found in those moments where somebody's wondering, should I say something about this hurt that I have received from my friend? Like you said, maybe it's unintentional. Maybe we don't know the motives. I mean, we really don't ever know anyone's true motives, but we don't maybe we have questions about the motives. And I have maybe just to use your idea of connected and boundaried, I've found that there are those who are just a lot less likely to have that conversation because they want to assume the best, and they just think like it's going to be better for the relationship if I don't say anything. And there's some things that they believe underneath that. It's like, okay, but maybe this is an opportunity that God's providing for mutual benefit. Like this person might need to hear that this dynamic sort of created that. Like that might be an opportunity for them to even grow and learn and listen. So there are people that I kind of have had to urge to have that conversation. And then I've also interacted with people who are so quick to sort of like you get close to touching, that, like my shoulder hurts. And so like, if you seem like you put your hand on my shoulder and it's like, I'm going to let you know it. And you're like, you're going to know it big time. And so they end up short circuiting their relationships because they're so quick to let you know when you're about to hurt them. And for that person, it's like, hey, there's some beliefs under that too. And for that person, like how do I help you realize that not every single thing in relationship, not like every single thing needs to be a fight and or a guard. And how do I help someone prayerfully go to the Father and seek out, like, Lord, what do I need to do with this? And it's really risky.
Mm-hmm.
It's like risky and it's scary to like sort that out. And I just want to kind of acknowledge it. Like on both ends of the spectrum, there's a lot of risk involved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a one size fits all
No.
situation.
No. And so because it's not a one size fits all situation, there's also a need to kind of say, just kind of disclaimer here, that we're kind of talking in very broad brush general principles.
Mm-hmm.
But the general rule of thumb, or a general rule of thumb, to the person who is maybe, everything needs to be addressed. A lot of times that's coming because they're not feeling heard, seen, understood.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes that's actually pointing to, hey, what I'm doing isn't really, like, the more I kind of fire off every complaint and every criticism, and people are stepping back and away from me, and it scares me. Right? There's this fear of, well, I wasn't being heard before, so I said something more loudly, and now everybody's stepping back even further, and that freaks me out even more. So maybe I just need to up the volume, right? And it's kind of, well, hold off, right? So when we work in relationship cycles, it's kind of helping that person in a relationship recognize that more is not necessarily better, right? And taking the opportunity to step back from it a little bit. The other side of that is someone who's like, it's just not worth it. A lot of times what I see is that a person who's in that part of a relationship is actually unintentionally trying to protect the relationship, and kind of coming to an awareness that, no, you're not really protecting the relationship. You're actually just freaking the other person out. Because they don't see it as you're protecting the relationship. They see it as you're pulling back and pulling back.
Pulling away or not trusting.
Yeah. So what you end up with, there's two people who are both thinking that they're doing right by the relationship. One, I'm going to try to fix the problem, and the other person is trying to protect the relationship by not kind of returning fire in their point of view. And inadvertently, they're both sort of driving disconnection.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So I want to make sure we cover this before we, start to wrap. How does someone know if it's time to let a friendship? You said every friendship has a life cycle, and you started the conversation with longevity of friendship, quality of friendship. Like, we're kind of designed for it. It's a challenge. When is it okay to let a friendship drift or end, or maybe you have to put some more boundaries? And when do you know that this is something you need to keep pushing into and kind of fighting for? Like, how do you know?
Yeah. And this kind of comes back to something you said earlier, where you were talking about, okay, is this friend, there's not necessarily reciprocity in the relationship because maybe they have some extraordinary needs in the moment. And this is where I think it's helpful to take kind of a longer term point of view. Because, every friendship is going to have times where maybe I'm predominantly giving, and there's going to be other times where maybe, and sometimes very uncomfortably, I'm the one who's having to receive because I'm in a vulnerable state. So what I kind of more think towards is when one or the other has, and I'm kind of thinking about right now Matthew 18 and Galatians 6, where, something has come up, I've tried to address it, and maybe that didn't go well. Maybe I've tried to bring someone else in.
Just for context, Jesus is saying, hey, when when there's sin between you, someone sins against you, like first go to your brother,
Yeah.
then like that isn't, there's not understanding and listening, then bring someone with you,
Yeah.
and then kind of progresses from there.
Yeah. And I think, and this is just my humble opinion, but I always read that verse for many, many years, that was, the really big ones, right? Someone has sinned against me. They've done something really massive that would provoke a Matthew 18 kind of response. And realizing, no, what if that's just part of the normal dance? Something has happened in our relationship and it was hurtful. So we didn't live up to our highest ideals. We fell short. That's sin.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
May not have been intentional. May not have been malice, but something has happened. I've tried to address it, and that didn't work. So I brought someone else, and that's not working. Then I'm starting to think about, okay, the level of access that I've given this person maybe needs to be more limited.
Okay.
That does not mean I'm cutting off the relationship.
Okay.
Right? It means that maybe I'm incrementally pushing the boundary a little bit further out to safeguard the things that are important. If it's important for me to address it, maybe I'm pushing that safeguard out a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe not forever. Probably not forever.
Yeah.
Hopefully not forever. We're only kind of taking this extraordinary step of, I'm no longer willing to be in a relationship when things are, I would say, reaching the level where we would say that is just full-on neglect or abuse. There's intentional hurt, or maybe there's hurt and you're completely unaware and you're unwilling to become aware. Like in extreme cases, someone didn't vote the way I liked. I would be very slow and very cautious about about that being the kind of thing that you would say, well, I'm not going to be friends with this person anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, that makes
Does
total
that
sense.
answer your question?
I think that it does, and I think you're right. Like, these are hard things to consider because it's easiest to talk about relationship contextualized in relational things, and so it's like, what are the triggers for needing to be a little bit more boundaried in this friendship or in this relationship? I think about a proverb that talks about a friend keeping a confidence, and it's like, okay, this is a person, and I've kind of trusted them with a confidence, and they told some people, and I need to go to them and I need to be like, hey, like, I may not have said don't tell anybody, but like I trust you with that, and that hurt me. And they listen. They apologize. They own that side of it. Maybe they clarify. Maybe I didn't fully understand what happened. Whatever. And I notice in them that this is something they're paying attention to in the future. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That can go another direction. And I may need to, even for a season, I'm kind of wondering, like, okay, are we going to kind of rebuild trust at that level? How do I know? Anyway, it's a dance. I think is a great, but it's not like I love you less. It's
Right, exactly. It's not like I stop seeing and honoring, particularly among believers, the Holy Spirit in you and the reality that you are made in the image of God, and God loves you more than any of us can express, and I'm called to be part of that expression.
Yeah. So
in all of this, it's not I'm away with you, right?
Right.
That's not our place. That's not our role. But what we are talking about is, can we dance the dance?
Yeah.
And and so that's just qualitatively different. And the mindset is, all of the things that I'm doing, even when I'm setting boundaries, is about the hope that we're going to continue dancing
Hmm.
and maybe we get way better at it over time.
Yeah. I also want to I know we're like probably over time, but I think I'm trying to think about what are the important pieces of this. And you even
Mhm.
mentioned, my friend voted differently than me and I didn't
Mhm.
know. And now I kind of find this out or this comes to light. What I'm thinking about as you say that is um, seeing people draw boundaries in relationship around in areas where what's actually maybe needed is an opportunity for interaction and conversation,
Yep.
to understand someone, to actually sharpen each other in
Mhm.
potential love and health and
Mhm.
those kinds of things. But what I've experienced, you just to full circle. In the very beginning, you were like, culture makes this hard, da 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 makes this
Mhm.
hard. I think
Mhm.
culturally there's a message that either comes from within me or from without of me. I don't really sometimes know which one, that says, unless someone's perfectly aligned with me on all of the things,
Mhm.
we cannot truly be in a reciprocal friendship.
Right. Yeah.
Um, that really limits. I'm not even always on the same page with my wife about some decision or thing, and we're like talking it out. Um, And so, like, there are areas where, like, I mean, talk to parents who have teenagers and they're like, I think we should discipline like this. I think we should discipline like this. And it's not
Mhm.
like, well, I guess the marriage needs to be over. And
Mhm.
it's like, oh,
Yeah. Wait, wait, wait.
but we treat our friendships
Yeah.
often this way.
Yeah.
And so, um, I just want to acknowledge um, that we might need to fight a little harder for
Yes.
um, the kind of friendships that we're designed for.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anything else about this conversation that you feel like is important to touch on before we wrap up? Anything that you're like, if I don't say this, I'm missing something?
No, I think we've done a good job of kind of covering a fair amount of waterfront. Yeah, this is obviously a massive topic, and um, I really am enjoying the sermon series and seeing that, but also just being aware that uh, there are entire libraries written on this, so it's been
Mhm.
fun to kind of engage
Yeah.
just a little bit of it.
Yeah, thank
So
you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining me for it. And also, this concludes our conversation. So thanks for joining us for this episode of Northway Leadership Notes. If you have any questions or comments about what you've heard, please don't hesitate to email us at info@northwaybiblechurch.com. Y'all have a great day.